Well, if you see me run, you got two reactions. Either like, I don't ever want to run and look like that, or you can say, well, if he can run, then I can run. I am Kent Watson, and I've run the last mile the last 2 years.
So my dad always had a heart for like kind of the underdog. And a couple years before the accident, he started biking, and he fell in love with biking, lost a lot of weight, and then started doing triathlons and finishing like top in his age group almost every race or triathlon that he would do. And so from there, he started encouraging our family to start doing these runs and riding bikes and all of these things with him, which created a great bonding environment for my sister and her, or my sister and my dad, and myself and my dad, and also my husband and my brother-in-law. And so in 2016, my dad and my husband were gone for a run through our neighborhood, and they went out onto Highway 98, and my dad was struck and killed instantly by a driver. And from there, one of our friends encouraged us to finish the route, to go out and finish the race in honor of my dad. And so the next day we had probably about 50 to 75 of our friends and family gathered together, and we finished the race for my dad, and that was the very first last mile race. And so finishing strong was something that he was always very passionate about, and I can say with extreme confidence that my dad went to heaven on a high note. He finished the race that was set before him the strongest that he had ever been.
So I've been running for quite a few years, and I've run pretty much a race every weekend from probably September through February. So I was just out searching on the internet, and I found a race over in Pensacola, and then I started reading about what it was all about. And oh, this would be pretty cool. So I've been running since I was 10 years old, and that year, so 2019, I was turning 50 that year. So I set a goal to break 20 minutes in a 5K. And then in the fall, I started running again, and the last mile was gonna be my second race to see if I could start getting back to that goal again. So I ran at 10 just because we had a local park recreation, and so on Sunday, my first 5K was with a bunch of old men. And so back then, I didn't like to wear shorts, so because I was so skinny. So I ran in jeans. And so I ran when I was 10 against these men, and I ran, I think, 23 something in jeans against these men, and I beat them. So after every race, I always stretch, whatever, but then I always go back on the course and to cool down. Well, that race, it was nighttime, so as we were coming through, I think over by the YMCA, they were handing out glow sticks, and everybody was getting glow sticks, but I didn't want to stop. So after I get done, the first thing I thought of, I got to go back on the course to get my glow stick. So I ran a little bit farther in my cool down than normal, and then when I was coming back, I was passing Kristen, and she said, "Oh, you've already run." I'm like, "Yeah, you're almost done, so let's finish it together." And so when we were doing that, she goes, "Well, you can be my daddy." And I'm like, well, that's kind of strange, but okay. So then we got to talking. I don't think I figured out who she was.
So one of the things my dad was kind of known for in doing these races was he would finish, and then whether it was myself or my sister or a family member or a complete stranger, he would turn around after he finished and kind of do his cool down, but he would use that cool down time to go back and encourage someone else to finish strong, someone that maybe he saw struggling to finish their race strong, he would go back and encourage them. And you know, my sister and I joke all the time about how like we can remember like looking forward and seeing Dad and just like chasing, we jokingly say chasing the green hat, because the hat that he would wear while he was running had a lime green band on the back. And so we would essentially chase our dad, and then he would turn back around and finish it with us. And so we start talking and he's like, I'm doing my cool down, and I just thought that I'd come back and encourage some folks. And so I turned to him and like jokingly said, well, you can just be my dad for the race. And so not knowing who I was, I'm sure he thought that was a little bit funny for someone to say, you can be my dad. But later I got to explain to him who I was and who my dad was, and that this race that he was running was actually in benefit and in honor of this person who would go back and encourage people to run their best race, to do their best and to finish strong. And so, you know, Kent had no idea that that was my story. Kent had no idea that I was Brian's daughter, and that this is the first time that I've run a race alone.
I was saying, okay, well, we're almost done, so let's just finish this together. And then we came in, and then she introduced me to her mom. She said, oh, this was my dad for the race. And so I don't think I really knew what the story was, but I knew about the whole last mile, what had happened. So I mean, with the last mile with your dad, he was always going back. He wasn't running just for himself. After he got to a point, he was going back and he liked it because of the camaraderie and what it gave him, especially on race day. That's why he wanted to go back and help people. It wasn't necessarily to help them, it was to talk to somebody. Because I mean, running is boring and lonely, but when you're out there doing it in a group, it just spurs you on more. So that's what we're hoping we can get back to that normal again.
The last mile is always the hardest mile for me, because it's a lonely mile now. It used to be full of conversation. The last mile is not that way. And so I was actually dreading this mile. And then here comes Kent to encourage me along the way. And so that is my encouragement. If you're gonna do the last mile, do it. If you're gonna run, sign up, because it's a family run. It's an encouraging run. It's whether you are a Kent who runs and enjoys running and loves the experience, or you're a me who I'd rather fight you than run from you any day, any time. Run, because it's encouraging, and there will be someone that shows up at the last mile to encourage you. And that was my dad. My dad was the person that came alongside someone, regardless if they were struggling in their personal life, or they were running, or they were biking. He would come alongside the underdog, the person who's struggling, and he would encourage them. And that's just who he was. That was the man that my dad was. And so, you know, Kent's carrying this torch without even realizing that that's what he was doing. And that's what the last mile is all about.